Yes, yeah, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. The 2025 NFL season is nearly upon us. And you know what that means. The NFL Oracle, myself, had to make his grand return. Guys, we got a great video to kick off this season. We're going to be covering all 32 NFL teams' win total over or under in today's video. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're going to be handing out 32 picks in today's video, going through each and every single NFL teams and picking over or under on their 2025 season win total. Guys, welcome back to the Oracle. Welcome back to our Guy Boston Sports NFL coverage. This is my third year covering the NFL here at Guy Boston Sports, my second year doing the NFL Oracle show, and I am so excited to talk some football with you guys. But first, we have a couple things to cover before we dive into today's video. Please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. We have a ton of great content coming out on the channel daily, and especially with football season now starting, we're going to have a ton of football content weekly between college football, NFL, between myself, Evan, Trey. A lot of great stuff. You don't want to miss any of it. HJH Season 3 premiere, by the time you guys watch this video, will already be out, so make sure to check that out. We have our college football picks coming out later this week, so a lot of great stuff here on the channel, and the best part is every pick we hand out on this channel is 100% free. So make sure, if you're not already, to hit the subscribe button down below. And to kick off the 2025 NFL season, I want to do a little giveaway special. The rules are simple. All you have to do is comment "We are back" down below in the comment section. I'm going to pick one lucky commenter to win a free $25 Amazon gift card. It's very easy. It's very simple. Just comment "We are back" and one of you guys or ladies win a free $25 Amazon gift card. One last thing before we finally dive into the picks. I know the intro is running a little long here, but I did want to talk to you guys briefly about our 2025 Guy Boston Sports Survivor Pool. This is our second year doing the Survivor Pool here on the channel. You may be asking, what is a Survivor Pool? Well, it's pretty simple, honestly. Each and every week, you're going to make a pick for a, I guess, money line, although it's not really a betting thing. You're just picking who's going to win each week, right? The catch is you can only pick one team, and then if that team wins, you can't pick them again for the rest of the NFL season. So if that was confusing, to put it into simple terms, let's say week one, you take my New England Patriots to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. If the Patriots do win, and I think they will, you advance to week two. The catch is you can't use the Patriots again for the rest of the year. So there's some strategy in there in terms of who you pick. You don't want to pick the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Bills right off the bat, because later in the year, it starts to get a little bit dicey. Now, if you lose, let's say the Raiders somehow by miracle beat my Patriots in week one, you're eliminated and your season is done. You're eliminated from the pool. That's about as simple as I could possibly make it for you guys. It's $10 per entry, maximum 5 entry. And if you're the last man or woman standing, you will win nearly $3,000 in cash. So fantastic prize there. Great opportunity. We have about 29 entries so far. Again, there's a lot more entries can come. We have about a week left to go ahead and enter. So if you haven't already, use the link down below in the description and join our 2025 Guy Boston Sports Survivor Pool. Again, $10 per entry, maximum 5 entries. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, let's dive in to our 2025 NFL win totals. Now, as you can see, we're still shaking the rust off a little bit. First NFL video of the year. I didn't even realize that I had the first division up already from the start of the video, so apologies for that. It was supposed to say like and subscribe. But again, we're shaking the rust off here. So bear with me as we kind of get back into the groove here with the NFL. But we're starting off with the AFC East. That's our first division that we're going to go ahead and take a look at. So how this video is going to work, guys, we're going to go division by division. Again, starting with the AFC East, I'm going to give you a pick for each and every team. Now, obviously, we have 32 picks to go through. I can't spend too much time on each and every single team. I've already done a ton of research prior to this video in terms of scheduling, additions, matchups, all these different things. So I already have a pretty good idea. I have all my picks already planned for what I'm going to do for this video. I'll give you about a minute or two on each team, give you a little bit of background. Maybe some teams I'll go a little bit more in depth on in terms of why I like them, why I think they're going to either cash the over or the under and stuff like that. But again, we're not going to spend too much time on every single team because, again, 32 teams will be here forever. So it's going to try to move quickly here and give you a pick. And don't worry if you miss any, all the final picks and plays will be down below in the pinned comment. So make sure to go ahead and check that out for the final plays. All right. Finally, diving into it here, guys. Starting with the AFC East, the first team we're going to go ahead and look at here is the Buffalo Bills. Now, I am personally using DraftKings for these plays. Now, you might find better odds on FanDuel or somewhere else. Absolutely shop around for your best sportsbook odds. Personally, for me, I'm just going to use DraftKings. I primarily use DraftKings for all my picks, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep using them here. But again, if you can find better odds, go ahead and find those. So Buffalo Bills, the first team here, obviously the leader of the AFC East right now. You can see here all the different options for their overs and unders and win total. The play that I'm personally going to go with here is Buffalo over 12.5 wins, which we're getting for plus 120, 125 right now over on DraftKings. So we'll add that to our bet slip here. Look, guys, I don't think it's much of a secret. The Buffalo Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL and a legitimate Super Bowl favorite. Actually, at the moment, they are the favorite, tied with Baltimore for the best Super Bowl odds in the AFC to win the Super Bowl. So, that's obviously the team is phenomenal. Josh Allen, we know all the things about their offense, their defense, a lot of things to like here. And honestly, their schedule is pretty favorable. The AFC East, although I do think the Jets and Patriots will be better than they were last year, Buffalo is still clearly miles ahead of all three of those teams. They should win at least 4 in the AFC East, if not more. And going through their schedule, you also have the NFC South, which is one of the weakest divisions in the NFL. You get the Saints, you get the Panthers, you get the Falcons. The Bucs are pretty good, but the schedule is definitely in Buffalo's favor here. Going through their whole 2025 schedule again, they have tough games. They have the Chiefs on the schedule. They have the Texans on the schedule. You obviously have some tough games. You got the Ravens on the schedule. You got the AFC North. So you got a couple tough games sprinkled in there, absolutely, but with the AFC East in the state that it's in, the fact they get to play the NFC South, and the fact they are one of the best teams. So even if I see them play Houston and Cincinnati and Baltimore, I think the Bills are good enough to beat most of those teams. Again, some toss-ups there, of course, with some of those heavyweight teams. But I do like Buffalo a lot as a team. And you're giving me plus 125 for them to win 13 games. I think 13 wins is very achievable for this Bills team. They're stacked, one of the best defenses in the NFL this year, in my opinion. Solid offensive line, top 2 quarterback in the league. The one shaky things is that I don't really love the weapons that Josh Allen has at wide receiver. Keon Coleman's pretty good, but Dalton Kincaid, a bit of a letdown last year. Some question marks in terms of the weapons Josh Allen has, but in terms of the regular season, this team should roll, barring a Josh Allen injury. I don't see why this team shouldn't get the 13 wins. So it's our first play in today's video. All right, guys, our second play here in the AFC East. Obviously, we're looking at the Miami Dolphins now. They're over under on wins, so we'll jump back over to DraftKings, look at their odds here. Now, Miami is a very interesting team this year because on paper, they have a lot of great pieces on both sides of the football. They should be a pretty solid team. The ultimate problem with Miami is, yes, they do have some weaknesses, but the biggest problem is the health of Tua Tagovailoa. And I know it's tough to make picks based off of injury luck and whatnot, but with Tua, it's not really luck at this point, it's unluckiness, right? He just consistently gets hurt every year. He's due to miss at least 4 games a year, and we've seen now, we have a lot of years of evidence to show that when Tua doesn't play, the Dolphins offense just doesn't operate at top notch. And although I think the defense will be better this year for Miami, and a solid defense at that, they should be a better unit, probably in the top 12 in the NFL, I would say, in terms of total defense. I just don't think it's a good enough defense to carry an offense if Tua is not playing. So with this one, it's a really tough pick, honestly, because like we just talked about with Buffalo, their schedule isn't all that bad. Again, they have a lot of similarities now. Their schedule is going to actually be easier for Miami because they're not going to have to play Kansas City. They're not going to have to play Houston. They don't have a first place schedule. I am going to go, though, and go with the under here at 7.5 wins, which is minus 115. Over on DraftKings. Look, I just really can't bet on Miami when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa. And I mean, look, New England's going to be better. The Jets going to be better. I don't think they're on the level of the Bills. Like the AFC East schedule alone, Miami could go 3-3. They could go 2-4. Like this is going to be a tough AFC. It's not going to be like in years past. New England's better. The Jets will be better, I think. I don't think the Jets are going to be a great team. We'll talk about them in a few minutes. But I just can't trust Miami here. And again, they do have the AFC North, which means they have to play the Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers, not so much Cleveland. But there's a lot of toss-up games. And with Miami, even if they have those toss-up games, they can be a little bit dicey. I mean, like I said, it's they have the Colts on their schedule, which obviously that's not a bad team to have on your schedule. But they do have the Chargers. It's one of their third place games. They have the Commanders. They have a second place schedule. But you have the Commanders on your schedule as part of that second place ranking last year. That also draws you the Chargers, playoff caliber team. You get the Colts, which is a little bit of a break there. They actually start week 1 against the Colts. But, you know, I just have some legitimate question marks there with Miami, with the health of Tua Tagovailoa. You know, and like I said, as long as he's their starting quarterback and until he proves he can consistently stay healthy, I just don't love Miami. I prefer the under. I think 7-10 is a very realistic season for the Dolphins, considering the schedule that they do have. They do have some tough games on their schedule, so I like the under 7.5 here for Miami. All right, next up, guys, the third team we're covering in today's video is the New England Patriots, my New England Patriots. And if you watched our HJH video that came out yesterday, you'll know I do like New England a lot in this spot. I'm going to go with their over here, 8.5 wins, which we jump over to DraftKings, is -110. I do know, because we talked about it in yesterday's video, I think FanDuel, you can get it for plus money. I don't know if that's still the case this morning, but you can go ahead over on FanDuel, I believe, for plus money. But on DraftKings, it is -110. We're going over 8.5 wins. And look, I understand right from the jump, you're asking a lot. A team that won 4 games last year and honestly struggled to get to those 4 wins immensely, to go from 4 to 9 wins in 1 year is a massive jump, especially playing in the AFC in a division with the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins to a lesser extent. But I just think this team is so massively improved from the coaching situation with Mike Vrabel. They also get Josh McDaniels back as offensive coordinator. This legitimately has the potential to be a top 10 defense in the league if everything sticks. The secondary looks phenomenal with Christian Gonzalez and the addition of Carlton Davis, Milt Williams on the defensive line, Harold Landry on the defensive line. You know, some of the younger players like Keon White getting a bigger chance to shine. Christian Barmore is back. I really like the look of New England's defense, and offensively, it can't get much worse than last year. And again, I think they took some major strides. The offensive line should be, on paper at least, significantly improved. Again, the bar was set very low last year. But Drake May in year 2, I'm hoping that he takes another step in his progression. I do think they've done a better job this year of giving him more weapons between, you know, rookie Travion Henderson, Stephon Diggs. You know, Mac Hollins is a nice little piece. Rookie Efton Chisholm. We'll see if he makes an impact here. The undrafted rookie free agent who ended up making the team with a very strong preseason. I just think everything around Drake May and everything around the Patriots has improved so dramatically in 1 year. And they have one of the softest schedules in the NFL. Yes, you have the AFC East, which we talked about already with the previous 2 teams. You know, Buffalo's tough. Miami, especially in Miami, you know, New England, they have their history of struggles there. But the Patriots also have a last place schedule, which benefits them. You know, you have the NFC South. So I think the schedule definitely benefits New England here. I think they're going to take a massive jump. I think 9 wins is not a terrible bet. I think they're a better team than Miami in total. And again, I think Miami, you know, if you look at the top of their team, right? No, New England has nobody close to the skill level of Tyreek Hill on offense. No, you know, they have, you know, Bradley Chubb and all these pieces, Minka Fitzpatrick and all these pieces. But New England, I think the sum of their parts is better than Miami. I think overall, if you look at the entire picture, I like New England a little bit more than Miami. And again, the consistency at quarterback with Drake May versus Tua, at least Drake May, I have a feeling we're going to see more of him. And again, I hope I don't, you know, knock on wood, I don't jinx that. But with Tua, the injury luck and whatnot, you know, I just think that New England is a little bit of a better bet for the second place team in this division. So over 8.5 wins for -110. I like that a lot for the Patriots win total. I think this team is going to take a massive jump this season under Mike Vrabel. And then our fourth and final team in the AFC East, we of course have the New York Jets, which is a pretty interesting one here. I am actually going to go ahead and take their win total over 5.5. Jumping over to DraftKings. Now, a little bit of juice here. It's -155. Not the best value there. But honestly, I don't really love a lot of their other plays. Now, under 6.5 would be my next best bet. -145. But I'm being honest, -145 versus -155. It's not too much of a difference for me. 10 cents on the dollar. So I'll take the over 5.5 win. I think the Jets are getting really undervalued. They won 5 games last year with one of the worst offenses. And I know the numbers say otherwise. Aaron Rodgers, you know, on paper, the stats were not terrible. They were really bad. That offense was anemic last year. I think they're going to be better. I don't think this is a great offense, but you get Justin Fields in here. He adds a new dynamic to this offense. They still have Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. The offensive line is solid. And this is a really, really strong Jets defense. They won 5 games last year, and what was a complete dumpster fire. They had trades mid-year. They had coaching changes, all this stuff. I think new head coach Aaron Glenn should be able to come in and kind of, you know, fix things a little bit here. Again, I don't think the Jets are going to be a great team, but they're going to be pesky. If they can win 5 games last year, I think they're a better team this year. 6 wins at -155 doesn't seem too crazy. Again, we talked about it with the previous 3 teams. The schedule here is favorable with the NFC East, the NFC South, excuse me, not the NFC East. with the NFC South. So favorable schedule. I think this is a team that's going to be feisty. They're going to surprise some people. This defense is stifling. And as long as Justin Fields can have some of what he did last year in Pittsburgh with a little bit of a Breece Hall bounce back year, I think the Jets could be a pesky team. So I think over 5.5 wins. I don't love the value of minus 155 so much, but I think this team to get one more win they did last year with the improvements. I think Justin Fields, and this might be a crazy take, I think it's an upgrade over Aaron Rodgers right now. So I like the over here, 5.5 for the Jets. Again, they're not going to be a great team. This is going to be a bit of a sweat. I wouldn't necessarily lock this one in, but as like a favorite play of the year. But if I have to make a pick here, I do like the over 5.5 for the New York Jets. All right, guys, moving on. Our next division here, we have the AFC North. I'm going to try to move a little bit quicker on this division. We have the AFC North, and the first team we're looking at here is the Baltimore Ravens. Jumping over to DraftKings, you can see we're grabbing their win total for over 11.5 wins at minus 120, which in my opinion is phenomenal value. Look, the criticism with the Ravens have been fair, in the playoffs at least. But in the regular season, you cannot deny Baltimore has been one of the best regular season football teams over the last several years. I like the Ravens a lot here for 12 wins. I think it's a pretty easy mark for them to reach. This team is phenomenal. We know this is a top defense. The offensive line is solid. You know, there was kind of a shaky thing last year. We weren't sure how the offensive line would hold up. It ended up holding up just fine. Derrick Henry, obviously, we know the season that he had. Lamar Jackson, even though he didn't win MVP, an MVP caliber season. Just everything is there's so much to like here with the Ravens. They're incredibly well coached. They have a great defense. They already had a great defense to begin with, and they go ahead and add Jair Alexander in the offseason to the secondary, which just makes them even more attractive as a defense. Defensively sound, offensively one of the most dynamic offenses, the best rushing offense in the NFL, and I do actually like their weapons too. You know, DeAndre Hopkins, a nice steady veteran that they added this past offseason. So I like the Ravens a lot this year. Looking at their schedule for 2025 here, looking down below. Now, obviously, they have their own division, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. You get the Browns twice. The Bengals are kind of an up and down team. We'll talk about them in a second. The Steelers, I really don't like what they're looking like this year. They obviously get the AFC East. That includes New England, Miami, and the Jets. Again, all teams, although I think they're all improved. At least Miami, not, I don't know. Miami, like we talked about, up in the air. But, you know, they have the AFC East, which is not a bad division to have if you're going to play a division in the AFC. The only one better would be the AFC South. You know, they have the NFC North. Like, it's not the easiest schedule in the league. They have a little, you know, obviously some difficult games here, right? The Lions, the Packers, the Vikings. You get, you know, the Bengals twice a year. Again, it's, you know, you get the Bills on the schedule, you get the Chiefs on the schedule. Like, they have some definitely tough games. They have the Rams on the schedule, but I like Baltimore a lot. Again, in the regular season, there's no team, in my opinion, that kind of consistently delivers than Baltimore. Like, even when they have injuries, even when things go wrong, Baltimore still consistently, they dominate their division, they dominate the regular season. I don't see why we'll see anything different this year. So I like the Ravens here, over 11.5 wins. Again, minus 120 odds over on DraftKings. Now, this next pick might be very controversial, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals win total under 9.5 wins, which I'm grabbing for minus 115 right now over on DraftKings. Look, guys, I know the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they have all these great pieces. Trey Hendrickson's back, confirmed, you know, and they obviously won 9 games last year, just barely missed the playoffs. They're a fun team, especially on the offensive side of the football. But we have to admit, this Bengals team has a lot of issues. I don't think they fixed any of them in the offseason from last year. This defense still, even with Trey Hendrickson back, I don't love this defense in Cincinnati. I think it's a really, really, really rough defense. They rely way too heavily on Joe Burrow in the passing game. The offensive line is still not good. You know, you can't take too much away from the preseason, but that preseason game where he was running for his life, not a good start to the year for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Yes, they had these miracle wins last year where Joe Burrow just put the Superman cape on and delivered. I just don't think it's a recipe for 10 wins. I really don't think so. You know, you got the Ravens twice. You got the NFC North, like we mentioned. You know, that includes the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings. They have a second place schedule, or third place schedule actually, which might actually benefit them a little bit if we go over here to their schedule real quick. Yeah, getting the third place schedule did not really benefit them here. They draw the Broncos, they draw the Cardinals. So it's going to be a little bit of a rough season, Cincinnati. Again, they could win around 8 or 9 games. You know, their offense obviously is very talented, but to get to 10 wins, I just don't think this team as a whole is good enough. And they're a Joe Burrow injury away, or even a Jamar Chase injury away from being an absolute disaster. So again, I think Cincinnati, there'll be a very similar season to last year where they're going to win some games. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts, some fun games for sure to watch. But for them to get to 10 wins, I just don't see it with the roster they currently have. So I'm going under 9.5 wins for the Bengals. All right, guys, next up we have the Cleveland Browns under 5.5 wins. And like I said, guys, some of these picks I don't really have to spend too much time on. There's minus 150 over on DraftKings, so there is a little juice there. I don't like this Browns team at all. I mean, defensively they have pieces. Even on the offensive side of the football, you know, they've got a couple pieces there. But, you know, and Joe Flacco, quarterback, we'll see what that brings. He's been pretty consistent over the last several years as a starter, especially his last tenure in Cleveland. But I don't buy this team. This team seems like a bit of a mess. Now, they are well coached by Kevin Stefanski. You know, they're a weird team for sure. Like I said, defense is solid, well coached. You got a couple nice pieces on offense, but this is a team that clearly is just struggling right now. The whole quarterback carousel thing, you know, they had a very weird draft that I'm not really sure what to make of. But, you know, we'll see. Like I said, I think the under 5.5 is the right play. I think this team could be feisty enough to maybe get somewhere around 5 wins. But for this team to win 6 or more games with the schedule they have, I just don't see it. So, minus 150, the value's not exactly where I'd like it to be. But I think under 5.5 wins. I don't see this Browns team winning 6 or more games. Not in the division they're currently in. Not with the schedule they currently possess. So give me the Browns under 5.5 wins, minus 150 over on DraftKings. And then my fourth and final pick here for the AFC North, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers under 8.5 wins. It's plus 105 over on DraftKings. Now I know Mike Tomlin, very well known for, you know, getting to Mr. 500 or just above 500. You know, he stays consistently in that 8 or 9 win range, even in a bad year. Now, obviously, under 9.5 would be the better play, but it's currently minus 170, a little too much juice here. I like under 8.5 at plus 105. I'll be honest, I am not high on the Steelers team at all. I just don't really get the hype with them. You know, they add Aaron Rodgers. I actually think it's a downgrade from what they had last year. I would rather run it back with Russ and Justin Fields or one of those two versus Rodgers. Yes, on paper, his numbers weren't terrible with the Jets last year, but this is a guy who's in his 40s. We have tons of evidence in the past, you know, 50, 60, 70 years in the NFL that tell us that quarterbacks over the age of 40, they just don't work. Not everybody's Tom Brady. Rodgers did not look good last year, even though his numbers do show that he had an okay season in terms of his passing yards and touchdown passes and whatnot. But I just really don't like this Steelers team at all. Defensively, they're going to be solid again. We know that. But this offense, I just don't buy it. I still don't trust the running game there. You know, they had rookie Caleb Johnson, but they lose Najee Harris. I don't love their running game. You know, their offensive weapons, yeah, they get DK Metcalf. But after DK, it's a lot of nothing. I mean, you got Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, some of these young, unproven wide receivers. You know, Aaron Rodgers and DK, it's a very weird pairing in terms of quarterback and receiver. I just don't love this team. And again, Arthur Smith as at OC with Aaron. I just feel like this team is going to be another media circus like the Jets were last year. I feel like you're going to see fights. You're going to see Rodgers and Mike Tomlin go at it at some point this year. Rodgers and Arthur Smith go at it at some point this year. The defense is good enough where they're going to be in these games. They're probably going to win somewhere around 7 or 8 games. But I think going over 8 wins, getting to 9 or more wins, a winning season for the Steelers with the schedule they have, with the circumstances they have, I just don't love their offense by any means necessary. I think you're putting a lot of pressure on a defense that's good, but I do think it's taking a little bit of a step back. I don't like the trades they made this offseason, switching Minka Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey. I don't really get that one. Jalen Ramsey, especially at this point in his career. So, yeah, I think for plus money, too, the value is certainly there. Give me the Steelers under 8.5 wins. I want to avoid betting any overs on what I think is going to be a circus in Pittsburgh this year. All right, guys, our next division is the AFC South, and we're going to go ahead and start off here with the Houston Texans. Now, if you watched my H2H video yesterday, you know I'm very high on Houston this year. I think a lot of people are sleeping on this Texans team. I'm going Houston Texans over 9.5 wins. That's plus 110 over on DraftKings. Everything that could go wrong for Houston offensively last year went wrong. Injuries, bad offensive line play, CJ Stroud regression, really bad across the mark. However, they still were a playoff team and a solid team at that due to the fact that this defense is one of the best in the NFL. The good news for Houston, that defense should be top 5 in the NFL again this year. This defense, especially this pass rush, is destructive. It's really, really strong. Their defense is so damn good. They're well coached by DeMeco Ryans. And I think, again, they had the worst luck in the NFL last year on offense. It's got to be better. What goes up, what goes down must come up. And I do like I guess that rule actually isn't true. The saying is what goes up must go down, I guess. But anyways, you get the point that I'm saying. They should be better this year. CJ Stroud had a year 2 regression. I think a lot of people are selling their CJ Stroud stock. But I think that's not really totally fair. I think, again, a lot of their issues were the offensive line was not great. Now, to be totally fair, that could be the case again this year as well. Despite that, though, the weapons that they have are, Nico Collins is back. They had Christian Kirk. I think the wide receivers will be back. CJ Stroud will actually have someone to throw the football to this year. They add Nick Chubb. Joe Mixon, I know, a little bit hurt to start the year. He should be back. I like the Texans. I think that their offense doesn't have to be great for them to win 10 games, considering the division that they're in, considering the schedule that they have. They have some tough games, without a doubt, right? They get, first place schedule, not the easiest. They have the AFC West on their schedule this year. That's not easy, but their defense is so damn good that their offense just has to be mediocre, and they're going to win a bunch of games. So I like the Texans a lot here for plus money, too. You're giving me a team that over a year ago, everyone was just going off about, right? Saying they love the Texans. They were the darling of last offseason, and then, like I said, just all hell broke loose. Nico Collins gets hurt. Stephon Diggs gets hurt. They just had so many injuries to their wide receiver room. The offensive line was bad. So much went wrong for them last year. I think they're going to be much better offensively. And defensively, they're still going to be one of the best in the NFL. So I like their over 9.5 wins for plus 110 odds over on DraftKings. I do want to take a moment to say real quick, this video is running longer than I wanted it to, but I'm realizing now that I can't stop myself from speaking more than 2 or 3 minutes on each pick. So here's what's going to do. I made this decision right now, kind of pulling an audible here mid-video. I'm going to split this video into 2 parts here. We're going to do part 1 AFC, part 2 NFC. We'll have them both come out the same day. Part 1 will come out earlier, part 2 will come out later in the day. I just think an hour-and-a-half long video is a little bit long. So this video will be part 1, covering all the AFC teams. So all 16 AFC teams will be covered in this video. And then we'll cover the rest of the NFC teams in the part 2 video, which will come out later in the day today. I just think that's the best way to go ahead and do this, because if at this rate we're going to be here for over an hour and a half, we still have 23 more teams to get to. So we'll finish up here. We'll do the AFC, and then we'll finish in part 2 with the NFC. All right, guys, next up, sticking with the AFC South, we have the Indianapolis Colts here, which they are a very interesting team to me this year. Now, obviously, all the talk this year has been about Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. I'm actually going to go ahead and take the Colts over 6.5 wins here, which is for minus 145 over on DraftKings. Guys, the Colts won 8 games last year when they had a mix of Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco at quarterback with some other injuries and whatnot. I don't see why the Colts shouldn't win 7 games this year. They actually do have a lot going for them. I know the quarterback position, a lot of conversation around there. But this is a really strong defense, a solid offensive line. They have a great running back, Jonathan Taylor. They've got some pretty solid receivers. I really like the rookie tight end they added in Tyler Warren. Yes, I don't love Danny Dimes or Danny Derps at quarterback, but Daniel Jones has had moments in his career, and I think this is one of the better teams he's been a part of. He's actually going to have solid protection. He's got some decent weapons around him now. Good defense to support him. Good coaching. Look, they saw something they really liked in him for a reason. They picked him over Anthony Richardson for a reason. I think this team is good enough around him where he doesn't have to be great for them to go ahead and be competitive in these games. Now, the schedule's a little bit tough. Again, they have the AFC West in their schedule, and they also get the NFC West in their schedule. So the schedule is definitely tough here for the Colts. But I think 7 wins, especially in the division that they currently play in, is gettable. I think the Colts can be competitive against some of the fringe teams like your Arizona Cardinals, like your Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Colts could be successful against teams like those. So I actually do like their over here at 6.5 wins. Again, minus 145, a little juice on there, but I do like this. I think the Colts are going to be a little bit better than people think. They won 8 games last year. I thought they were very unimpressive last season. The roster is still pretty good, and I honestly think Daniel Jones could be a better fit than what Joe Flacco was last year. So I do like this team to get to 7 wins, which is still, again, 7 wins would be worse than they did last year. But I think 7 wins is gettable for this Colts team. So that's our second pick here in the AFC South division. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars here. We're going with the under 7.5 wins, which I'm getting for plus 105 over on DraftKings. I actually did like their over for a while, but I think they've become a bit of a popular play. Like, a lot of the public I see has been riding their overs, and the lines have changed due to that. I think the under 7.5 wins now is the better play. Again, I think the Colts right now are the better team, like I just talked about, than Jacksonville. That being said, I do think the Jaguars could take a big step up in their production this season. Obviously, the biggest addition they made, head coach Liam Cohen and rookie Travis Hunter. Hopefully Liam Cohen, you saw what he did with Baker Mayfield in Tampa. The hope is that he can kind of get Trevor Lawrence on a similar rebound path like Baker Mayfield had in Tampa Bay. I like their weapons. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr., like I mentioned, rookie Travis Hunter. They have Travis Etienne still at running back, Tank Bigsby. I like their offense, and they have a couple decent pieces on defense, but overall, this Jaguars defense was not very good last year. I don't think it's going to be much better this year. It should be okay at best. I don't love their defense. The offensive line situation still isn't totally fixed, which was one of the big reasons why their offense struggled at times last year. They couldn't protect Trevor Lawrence. The defense wasn't great. You got to win these shootout games. Like we mentioned, they have the AFC West. You got the NFC West. I just don't love Jacksonville too much in this spot. Again, I think 8 wins is a big jump for a team that still doesn't have a reliable defense, that still has offensive line issues. I think the under is the better play here. Again, especially because I think the Colts are a slightly better team. I think the under 7.5 wins, especially for plus money, it's the better play for the Jaguars. I think they're going to be much better. I think they're definitely going to be a better team, and they're on the right track. But I think it's going to take a little bit more time for Jacksonville to get back into sort of a playoff form, 8-9 win range form. So give me the under 7.5 wins for the Jaguars at plus 105. And wrapping things up in this division, we have the Tennessee Titans. I'm going with their under 6.5 wins here, which is minus 130 over on DraftKings. Again, another team like Jacksonville where I do like the offseason they had. I think rookie Cam Ward, there's a lot that I like that I've seen from him so far in this preseason. I like what I'm seeing for Tennessee, but this is another team like Jacksonville where I feel like they need another offseason under their belt where they can add some more pieces. I like their coach in Callahan. I think their defense actually was sneaky kind of good last year. Their offense should be better with an actual good quarterback, hopefully under center. But I don't love a lot of their pieces on offense. I don't love the weapons they've given Cam Ward. I think this team is going to need some time. So I think the under 6.5 wins. Again, we talked about it again with the schedule with the previous team. But NFC West, AFC West, yes, they're going to have a last place schedule. But I don't love the Titans here. I think the under 6.5 wins is the better play. Even if they get to 6 wins, that's an overperformance from what they did last year. So I just think that 7 or more wins for this Titans team would be pretty unbelievable. I think the Colts and the Jaguars are both better teams right now than Tennessee. I just think the Titans are the worst team in this division. I think they need another offseason or maybe even 2 off seasons to get where they want to be. I think the under right now is the better play. And for minus 130, the value isn't terrible there. So I'm hopeful that Cam Ward will be good. I like a lot what I'm seeing from him. I just think they need to put more around him offensively, and I think the defense could use a couple more pieces as well. All right, guys, and wrapping up part 1 of this video. Again, I apologize for the mix-up on the fly there, but again, we're already over 30 minutes. We still have one more division to go in the AFC, and we still have the entire NFC. So part 2 will come out later in the day today, but part 1 is here. Our final division here, part 1, covering the AFC. We have the AFC West, and we're looking at the reigning AFC champion, Kansas City Chiefs, to start off this division. I'm actually going to go with their under here of 11.5 wins, minus 130. Now, the Chiefs are this team. They're very much like the Patriots of the Tom Brady days, where every year you're like, nope, they're going to come down to earth here. They're going to fall off, and then they go ahead and they surprise you. I do like their under, though. And again, they could still win 11 games and cash this under. I just think this Chiefs team with the schedule they have, winning 12 or more games, seems a little unlikely. Now, the one break they get is the fact they do play the AFC South. That's a nice break in the schedule, but they have a first place schedule, which means you get Baltimore, which means you get the Bills, which means you get in the NFC, you get the Detroit Lions. They also have the NFC East on their schedule, which means you get the Eagles, you get the Commanders, to a lesser extent the Cowboys. But it's going to be a bit of a tough schedule for them. They obviously play Denver twice a year, which they look really good this year. The Chargers twice a year, they look pretty solid despite some injury stuff. We'll talk about them in a second. And the Raiders are going to be better this year. So the division is better. I think the AFC, it was already great to begin with, and it's gotten even better. I think the AFC West is the best division in the NFL right now. But then you mix in the fact that you've also got the Eagles on the schedule. You got the Commanders. You got the Bills. You got the Lions. You got the Ravens. I mean, the schedule is brutal for the Chiefs. If it wasn't for the fact they have to play the AFC South, which of course means you get the Colts, you get the Titans, you get the, we just talked about them, the Jaguars. Those are really the only breaks in the schedule. I mean, like I said, you also get Houston from that division, which is obviously a really solid defense like we just talked about. I just think the Chiefs have a really tough schedule. I have some legitimate questions about their offense this year. The offensive line was a bit of an issue, although they made some moves to improve upon it. We'll see if it's actually improved upon. I don't think this is a great offensive line. The weapons, we'll see. We still don't have a ruling on Rashee Rice, if he's going to miss time this year or not with suspension stuff. Travis Kelce's getting older. The defense is getting a little bit older in certain positions, specifically like Chris Jones on the defensive line. I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to be bad. I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs. I'm not even saying they're going to finish with less than 10 wins. I just think getting 12 wins with the schedule they have, this is not the best Chiefs team we've seen in the Reed, Mahomes, Kelsey era. I just think the schedule is brutal. And I find it hard to believe they're going to win 12 or more games considering how many legitimate contenders they have on the schedule. So brutal schedule. I think the under 11.5 wins is the right play here. Next up, we got the LA Chargers. I'm going with the over here, 9.5 wins, -105 over on DraftKings. This is a team that the last couple weeks, my thoughts on their win total over-under has fluctuated so much. Originally, I was all over the over here. Then the Rashawn Slater injury happens. And I'm like, man, well, let me go back. They signed Keenan Allen. I'm like, all right, perfect. The one big fear I had was their wide receiver room. They add Keenan Allen, mixed out with Lad McConkey. I'm like, all right, you know what? Still not great, but it's better. I like their over. Then the Rashawn Slater injury happens. And you're like, wait a second, hold on. Now I got some legitimate offensive line concerns there. Let's go back towards the under. But then I think everybody started slamming the under, and the market corrected itself, and now the over is valuable again. So over 9.5 wins, we get that for -105 over on DraftKings. Again, they're going to have some of the similar issues that Kansas City's having, where the schedule is going to be tough. It's not as tough as the Chiefs, though. Remember, the Chargers have a second-place schedule, not a first-place schedule. So the Chargers, they're not going to have to play Baltimore. They're not going to have to play Buffalo. They're not going to have to play Detroit. So that's huge for them. Missing those 3 teams is definitely an advantage there. But all that being said, you still have the NFC East, which means you get the Eagles and the Commanders. You got your own division. You get the Broncos twice, the Chiefs twice, the Raiders twice. And you also have the Minnesota Vikings, which that should be a tough game. Winnable, but tough. But yeah, I just think the market corrected itself, and now the value is certainly there again. You know, over 9.5 wins. It's still a really good team. Even with the offensive line concerns, you know, the defense is going to be phenomenal. Justin Herbert and the offense should be solid. This is a team that had a lot of luck last year for sure, but I do like their team. I like some of the rookie Amari and Hampton. They added at the running back position. I think this Chargers team now that they're kind of undervalued here, and I think the value for us is there for the over. So I like the over here, 9.5 wins. I think 10 wins is very gettable, despite the fact they have some tough opponents. Their schedule is significantly easier than the Chiefs, and I like them a lot here. For 9.5 wins, the value is definitely there. Now, guys, this next AFC West team, I've had a lot of time spent thinking about them. Again, kind of similar to the Chargers. Originally, I was super high on the over. Then I've kind of come back down to the under. And I'm making an audible play here as we're recording. I actually was going to go under here. I'm actually going to go over now. I'm going to switch my pick. We're going to go over 9.5 wins for the Broncos. Now, I understand that by doing that, I'm basically telling you guys the AFC West will have 3 teams with 10 wins. The Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. Although I guess Kansas City, I took their under, so maybe not. But I think they're going to win 10 games. I'm basically telling you guys I think there's going to be 3 10-win teams in this division. I just wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if all 3 of these teams win 10 games. I know it's a lot for a single division, but again, this is a really, really strong team. Their toughest schedule, you know, they have their own division. They don't have the toughest schedule, but obviously their schedule within the division is tough. Chiefs twice, Chargers twice, Raiders twice. You know, we talk about the NFC East, Eagles and the Commanders. But the Broncos get the benefit of having a third place schedule, which obviously they gained last season. It actually benefits them massively here because you look at who they're going to play. Now they get the Bengals, interesting but very beatable. You get the Jets, very great for their schedule. In the NFC, you pull the Packers, which is kind of a tough one. But I do overall think the third place schedule benefits them in the sense that, you know, the Jets and Bengals, I think, are teams that are going to struggle against this Broncos defense for sure. I just think Denver defensively, this is a top 5 NFL defense. Their offensive line is solid. They're one of the best coached teams with Sean Payton. Bo Nix now, year 2 in this system. He should be better. I don't love their offensive personnel still. You know, Courtland Sutton's solid at wide receiver. I wish they had more weapons for Bo Nix to utilize. They didn't really do a great job of giving him some extra help. They do have a rookie running back that I do like, but again, great offensive line, phenomenal defense, great coaching, solid young quarterback. I just wish they would have given him another receiver. Kind of the same thing with the Chargers. Both those teams very similar in the sense that they had gone in the offseason and gotten a really solid receiver. Now, granted, the Chargers did get Keenan Allen, so they did at least make an effort there. If the Broncos had one more really good receiving weapon, I would really love them to win the division. But I do think the lack of weapons on offense concerns me a little bit with Denver. But I think over 9.5 wins, -140, not the value I'm necessarily looking for there, but I don't hate it. So I think over 9.5. I would hate taking their under. and knowing that I think this team is really, really good. I think they're the second best team in this division. Taking their under, I would just feel like such an idiot when they end up winning 10 or 11 games at the end of the year. It's tough because I know someone of those 3 picks I just made, one of them most likely is going to have to cash their under. Although, again, I did bet the under for the Chiefs, so maybe it'll be them. And I know the public is all over Denver right now, but I love the Broncos this season. I think they're going to be a really improved team, well coached, great defense, good offensive line, good young quarterback. If the rookie running back can come through, I'm really going to be interested in how good the Broncos can be. I don't want to say Super Bowl contender just yet because it's obviously a loaded AFC, but their defense is so damn good. If their offense can take a next step up, this Broncos team is going to be lethal in the AFC. And wrapping things up, our final pick of our Part 1 NFL win total over-under, our final pick for the AFC. This is one that's going to piss off a lot of Raiders fans, but I'm going Raiders under 6.5 wins. It's plus 120 right now over on DraftKings. I'm sorry, guys. I just really don't love this Raiders team at all. I don't think they're terrible. And obviously, if the team winning 6 games isn't great, I just think their schedule's tough. Again, I'll say it one more time. AFC West, you get the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. Now, those teams at least get the break of playing the Raiders twice. The Raiders get no break. They have to play all 3 of the teams I just took, to win around 10 games. They got to play them all twice. They have the NFC East. Even their last place schedule that they get New England, they get Chicago, a couple of teams that are massively improved over the offseason. The Raiders are very similar to the Cowboys, which we'll talk about in Part 2's video, in the sense that this is a very top-heavy team. Yes, they've got some good name players. Max Crosby on defense, Geno Smith, Brock Bowers, rookie Ashton Genty. But if you look at the sum of their parts, all of it put together, this is not a good team. Their defense, honestly, is a bottom 10 defense in the league. If it wasn't for Max Crosby, they'd be bottom 5 defense. But Max Crosby is so damn good. He elevates his defense a lot. But they might have one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. I don't even know if I can name another starter on their defense confidently past Max Crosby. This is a very weak defense besides Crosby. And you're asking him to pull a Herculean effort to pull this defense together. I don't love the defense. Their offensive line, PFF ranks them 18th right now going into the year. That's subpar at best. They're an average offensive line. It's not great. Geno Smith, I think he's had a better offense last year in Seattle. You had more weapons. Yes, you have Brock Bowers, which is great and all. And yes, Ashton Genty's supposed to be this great young running back. But I got a lot of question marks with this offense still. I really don't know what to think of them. Jacoby Myers now wants out. They signed Amari Cooper. That would have been great news 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. Nowadays, Amari Cooper just seems like a desperation signing when they know there's a good chance they're going to lose Jacoby Myers. The Myers news comes at the worst time possible for this Raiders team. They're going to be frisky. They're going to be competitive. They're going to play tight in a lot of these games, but I'm sorry. I just really don't foresee the Raiders being a force in the AFC. I think under 6.5 wins for plus money is the smarter play than taking an over for them because, like I said, this division's tough. They have the NFC East schedule. Yes, you have the AFC South, but you know what? I'm going to be honest. I would take the Texans over the Raiders. I would take the Colts over the Raiders right now. And honestly, I think the Jaguars and the Raiders, that game's a toss-up. And I think Tennessee, the Raiders should be able to beat them. But, you can sit here and say, they play the AFC South. I don't think the Raiders are better than most of those teams in the AFC South. I think the Colts and the Texans are definitively better. And I think the Jaguars are on the same tier as the Raiders. Call me disrespectful, Raiders fans. I'm sorry, but I really just don't think this year is it for you guys. A lot of changes. You got a 70-year-old Pete Carroll who didn't have the best ending in Seattle. They're banking a lot on an offense where the wide receiver room, especially if they lose Jacoby Myers, this becomes the worst wide receiver room in the NFL, bar none. I mean, the next best option after Amari Cooper, which if Amari Cooper in 2025 is your wide receiver 1, there are some issues there. Beyond Amari Cooper, it's Trey Tucker, young and unproven. Rookie Dante Thornton Jr., young and unproven. Rookie Jack Beach, young and unproven. This is an incredibly young and unproven offense that I just don't trust a lot. And Geno Smith, he was really good when he had DK and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith-Njigba and Kenneth Walker. We'll see what he does with the Raiders. If they can keep Jacoby Myers and you have Brock Bowers and Genty meets his expectations, maybe I'm wrong. But the Raiders are going to be asking this offense to carry the majority of the load. And yes, it's a better offense, but it's not great. And, Geno Smith's a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, absolutely. But he's probably 15. He wins games for sure, but I think the team he had in Seattle last year on both sides of the ball, better than what he has right now with the Raiders. They have some fancy names, Brock Bowers, Max Crosby, Pete Carroll, head coach, Geno Smith, Ashton Genty. But you look at the entire image, I just don't love that Raiders team. So my final pick here in part 1, my AFC coverage here, is the under 6.5 wins for the Las Vegas Raiders. Like I said, guys, all final plays will be posted down below in the pinned comment. This is the end of part 1. Make sure to check around later today for part 2. We'll go ahead and drop, like I said, we're already 45 minutes in. We still have 16 more teams to get to. So I think it's better to split this video into 2 parts and do a one big hour-and-a-half long video. Guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. And just for your information, because I'm feeling very giving here to start the NFL year, we'll do the same giveaway contest in part 2's video that we did in part 1 video. So we're doing 2 $25 Amazon gift card giveaway contests for these videos. So guys, make sure to check out that part 2 video coming out later today. Until next week, we have our official week 1 NFL Oracle video. I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your week. Let's go ahead, make some money, baby. Let's go.